If you stumbled upon a scouting report that described a player steaming right through arm tackles, has running back vision with the ball in his hands, and a compact stocky frame, what position would you have guessed they played? Mine would have been running back, but as you can probably tell from the title, this video isn't about a running back. It's about a wide receiver who plays like one, as those comments were taken right from Deebo Samuel's scouting report, and so far he's certainly lived up to them. Through week 12, Samuel has rushed for 203 yards, the most by any wide receiver in the NFL this year, and currently the 21st most ever in a season by a receiver. He also has 1,006 receiving yards to go along with it, which gives him the record for the most rushing yards in a season by a 1,000-yard receiver. Oh, and I forgot to mention, he's got 6 games left. Yet, for however special of talent Deebo is, scouts didn't view him as such, and considered him a third-round pick in the 2019 draft. But the 49ers decided to reach for him and took him 36 overall. However, despite that high draft selection, there were still multiple inferior receivers taken before him. So in today's video, I'll cover the Niners' decision to reach for him and the receivers taken before him. And quickly before we get into the video, if you guys could tell me down in the comments how many rushing yards you think Deebo will finish with, and hit that subscribe button to help me hit 25K before Christmas, that'd be greatly appreciated. Now, let's take it back to Deebo's roots. From Inman, South Carolina, Samuel was a high school football phenom. Playing receiver, running back, and corner during his 4 years, he scored 53 total touchdowns, a school record. Due to this phenomenal play, Samuel was considered a 3-star prospect, which got him offers from UNC and USC, with him ultimately deciding to stay home and play for the Gamecocks. In his first year at South Carolina in 2014, Samuel was redshirted, and then in his freshman year in 2015, he struggled with injuries, playing in only 5 games and totaling a mere 161 receiving yards. It looked as though things weren't really working out until 2016 came around. Samuel finally broke out in his sophomore year, catching 59 passes for 783 yards and a touchdown to become the team's leading receiver, while also converting his 15 rushes into 98 yards and an absurd 6 touchdowns. He was shaping up to be one of the better receivers in college football. Unfortunately though, 2017 was another bump in the road as the injury bug resurfaced once again when in week 3 against Kentucky, Deebo caught a pass and was awkwardly tackled, resulting in a broken leg. With 3 years under his belt and only a season of production, Samuel decided to return for his senior year, telling fans, "We got one more ride." And that final year did end up being quite the ride, with him having 62 receptions for 882 yards and 11 touchdowns, including an incredible performance of 10 catches for 210 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns against that year's national champion Clemson. Deebo's stellar senior season caught the eyes of NFL scouts as he received an invite to the NFL Combine, where he posted a 4.48 40-yard dash, 39-inch vertical jump, and 15 reps on the bench press. However, scouts were spooked by his lack of height, injury history, and running back-like frame. Fortunately for the Niners though, what some saw as a negative, they saw as a positive, with Coach Kyle Shanahan saying, "Playing on the outside to me has to do with being able to threaten guys on a go route, and that has to me nothing to do with height. And look at his body, look how he runs with the ball. It hurts for people to tackle him, it doesn't hurt him as bad, to contradict the worries surrounding him." And using this foresight, the Niners made the right call at the 2019 draft.
With the 32nd pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Deebo Samuel, South Carolina.
Garoppolo has time, stands in, going deep, going for it. Oh, and it's caught for the touchdown on 4th down.
On 1st down and goal, Samuel takes that handoff out of the backfield and into the end zone. Touchdown.
Garoppolo looking deep. He's got Deebo Samuel separating, and he makes the catch inside the 5. Now they have to run.
Samuel's been an elite offensive weapon throughout his 3 NFL seasons, putting together a phenomenal rookie year in 2019 with 961 offensive yards and 6 touchdowns. And then after a brief injury-riddled sophomore slump, he's finally cemented himself as one of the NFL's best in 2021. Through week 12, he's got 1,006 receiving yards, 203 rushing yards, and 10 total touchdowns. If you combine his offensive yards together, he ranks 3rd in the league, only behind JT and Cup, and is 2nd in the NFL in yards after the catch, showing off that coveted run after the catch ability he was known for in college. Now, you're probably assuming with Deebo being so good that he was the first receiver taken, and the Niners weren't the only team to see a diamond in the rough. However, he wasn't, and there were multiple taken before him. So now let's see who these guys are and how their careers have gone so far. So for the first wide receiver drafted before Deebo, we have the Ravens, who took Marquise Brown 25th overall. Hollywood Brown ironically began his college career playing in Hollywood, when he played at the JUCO school, College of the Canyons, just outside of LA, after he received 0 D1 scholarship offers coming out of high school. However, as you can probably assume, the eventual NFL talent lit up the JUCO circuit with 754 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns, and swiftly received a D1 offer from Oklahoma. That combination of Lincoln Riley, Baker Mayfield, and Hollywood was lightning in a bottle in 2017, as Brown took off in his first year at Oklahoma, compiling 1,095 yards and 7 touchdowns. And if anyone thought 2017 was a fluke, 2018 was Brown's masterpiece, as he posted 75 receptions for 1,318 yards and 10 touchdowns with Kyler Murray that year instead of Baker. Following this stellar season, Brown declared for the 2019 NFL Draft. Despite not participating in the Combine due to a foot injury, and worries surrounding his size and strength, Brown was still unanimously considered one of the best receivers available, due to his excellent speed and explosiveness, leading to some to dub him as the next Deshaun Jackson, which was enough to convince the Ravens to spend the 25th pick on him. Hollywood burst onto the scene in his first game, recording 4 receptions for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns in his NFL debut. Unfortunately though, he couldn't keep that production up, as he finished his rookie year with only 46 receptions for 584 yards and 7 touchdowns. In the following season, Hollywood was expected to break out, but it never happened, as he only improved his numbers to 58 catches for 769 yards and 8 touchdowns. It seemed like playing in the Ravens' run-happy offense with Lamar was limiting him as a player, but this season has been a different story. Baltimore has finally unlocked Hollywood in 2021, as he's almost at career highs with 60 receptions for 770 yards and 6 touchdowns through only 10 games, and is finally having that breakout year. However, his numbers this season pale in comparison to Samuel's, and could you imagine adding in Deebo's running ability to that elite Baltimore run offense? Baltimore would no doubt select Samuel in a redraft. Now for the second receiver taken before Deebo, we have Nikhil, who was taken by the Patriots with the 32nd pick. One of the biggest wide receiver busts of the past decade, he certainly didn't look that way coming out of Arizona State. Compiling 213 receptions for 2,889 yards and 22 touchdowns in 3 seasons there, Nikhil was a stud. Looking like the most physical player in all of college football, he constantly used his 6'4" frame and aggressive mindset to block like a lineman and maul smaller DBs, even managing a 57.5% catch rate on contested catches, the best in college football in 2018. Just looking at his highlights, he reminds me so much of Dez Bryant coming out. His undeniable talent was on full display at the 2019 NFL Combine, where he stole the show, posting a 4.53 40-yard dash and an absurd 27 reps on the bench. NFL scouts were drooling over his combination of size and strength, and overlooked how there were concerns over if he would be able to separate from NFL corners, and reminded some scouts of Laquan Treadwell due to his lack of suddenness. However, despite the red flags, Belichick still decided to draft him. Ever since Harry stepped foot on an NFL field, it seems like all that potential has completely disappeared. Throughout 29 career games, he's managed a mere 53 receptions for 531 yards and 4 touchdowns. That is horrific. He's genuinely been awful in the NFL so far. The worries that scouts had about him all came true. That 4.53 speed he showed at the Combine won't translate to the field for whatever reason. His slow and sloppy routes combined with the fact that he has no explosiveness coming in or out of breaks makes it impossible for him to get open. And that physicality he exerted against college DBs to moss and block them just doesn't seem to work against stronger NFL guys. Here's a stat that perfectly encapsulates Harry as an NFL player. In 2020, Harry got open on just 25.5% of his targets against single coverage. This was 99th out of 100 qualifiers. The worst part of all this too was that the Patriots scouting department actually preferred Deebo Samuel over Harry, but Belichick ignored the scouts, and allegedly took Harry because of his relationship with the Arizona State head coach Todd Graham and Harry's performance during a non-workout visit. This is honestly one of Bill's biggest career mistakes, as Deebo already has 4 times as many career receiving yards as Harry, with 2,199 compared to 531. Also factor in Samuel's ability in the run game, and he would have been a perfect fit in that New England offense on those end-arounds and screens. I bet Belichick must be kicking himself over this move. Following New England's passing of him at 32, the Niners finally snagged him 4 picks later, 36 overall, making him the 3rd receiver taken. Now, you're probably saying, pylon, why make a who was drafted before on a guy who only had 2 wide receivers picked before him? And to that, I say, such a special talent deserved a who was drafted before, so I made an exception, especially considering how he's easily been the best wide receiver from that class, and how uninspiring the wide receivers taken before him have been. Overall, Deebo's emergence this year has been a beautiful thing to see, and his versatility makes him one of the most enjoyable players to watch. Now, to wrap up the video, I'd like to use this quote to summarize the Niners' decision to go against the grain and reach for him. By all means, listen to other people's advice, but when in doubt, go with your gut instinct.